Good morning, everyone. I know there are still people kind of working their way in. I know we're running a little bit behind schedule this morning. So I'm going to do my welcome and thank you for joining us right now so that I can hand it over to Jeff and Jimmy so that they can start their presentation from the Gaia Project. So on behalf of the Institute, we thank you both for being here and presenting on behalf of the Gaia Project, sharing your story and how you can support educators in or out of the classroom. I welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. And if we don't have time at the end of this for questions, you can join us over at that live meeting hall on Remo. I'll throw the link over in the chat for everyone. It is free. All you got to do is quickly put your name in and register real quick. And then you can jump around through tables and chat with amazing presenters, keynote speakers, and so on between 11 and 12 today. So thank you again for joining us. Jeff and Jimmy, the stage is yours.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a great Friday morning. I know the coffee's just starting to hit for me, so I'm excited to give this presentation today about the Gaia Project, the work we do in schools in the New Brunswick region around empowering youth to take action on climate change. So Jimmy's here with me today as well, and we're really excited to talk about the work we do, and hopefully you're familiar with us, and if not, after today, I think you will be, and maybe you want to work with us in the next coming school year. What we're going to do today is just do some quick introductions about ourselves. Invite you to introduce yourselves via the chat. I'm not really sure how this works, if you have access to the chat or not, but if you do, feel free to put your name in there and a little bit about yourself. We'll talk about the organization. We're going to do a little mentee trivia session with you about climate change education. And then I want to talk about two specific programs that are new and we feel really important to pushing climate change education forward in New Brunswick: Eco Schools Certification and Youth Leadership Team through UCAN funding, which is a federal grant that we have. And then we can do some questions and discussion and leave it a little bit open. If you want to complete a survey, you can send an email to the contact@thegaiaproject.ca and we'll send you a quick survey and you get a chance to win some of our free swagger. We got our water bottles and our posters. We'd like to send you one of those, so check it out. Quick land acknowledgement here. The Gaia Project recognizes that all the work we do in the educational interactions take place on the unsurrendered and unceded traditional lands of the Wabanaki peoples. So for me, I'm on lands of the Wolastoqey and Fredericton today, and Jimmy is in Moncton on Mi'kmaq territory that is covered by treaties of peace and friendship. So we'll do some introductions here. My name is Jeff McDonald. My pronouns are he, him. I am the interim executive director of the Gaia Project. My background is in education, specifically in science education. So I completed a science degree in biology and really took a liking to doing work around curriculum and lesson planning and science camps and things of that nature. I know Let's Talk Science is involved this week, and they were talking yesterday. That was for me, that was the gateway to science education, working with Let's Talk Science at UNB and getting into some middle school and high school classrooms to do some experiments. I thought it was a lot of fun. Led to doing my bachelor degree, was really fortunate there to work with Dr. Ann Sherman for about 5 years. She was my mentor. And I did my master's with her encouragement to work on some curriculum development, inquiry-based learning type research with teachers, and started working with the Gaia Project directly after defending my thesis, working on a climate change education plan for the province, and a lot of work with the Department of Ed and other funders and stakeholders and partners. And it's just a great organization. It's a great team. It's a great cause, and we're really happy to share some more about that today. Over to you, Jimmy.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, just checking, making sure. So my name is Jimmy Terrien. I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology as well, with minor in physics from UDAM in 2005. And it made me think about a lot like Jeff. I noticed how education was a powerful tool to teach about nature, and about back then I was mostly focused on the natural environment, and it made me decide to go for the Master in Environmental Studies and specializing in education. So I did a thesis on metacognition in young students solving complex problems and looking at environmental problems in more particularly. And while I was doing that, I worked for 5 years as a research assistant at UDAM with a group called Littoral Lévis, doing education research in the environmental sector. And since 2011, I've been with the Gaia Project, so I'm the oldest guy there now, and I wore different hats throughout those years, like program officer, technical director, executive director for a year, and now I'm leading the program development staff and managing the team of environmental educator as program director. So I'm really glad to still be around, because we did a lot of work, a lot of really impressive work in the last couple of years.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy's one of the best outreach educators I've seen around the province. If he hasn't been in your classroom, yeah, that's definitely someone you want to work with. So yeah, feel free to reach out. And if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, I guess there might be a chat, or you know what, you can feel free to raise your hand. I think there's a hand raising mechanism here if you want to interrupt us during the presentation. No one likes to hear themselves talk for 30 plus minutes in a row. So if there's a question that you have, feel free to raise your hand. Jimmy's going to kind of pay attention to the chat and the hand raising thing, and he'll interrupt me whenever that takes place. But yeah, if you want to share your name, pronoun, your position, where you're coming from today, and any knowledge you have around environmental education and other ENGOs like the Gaia Project. We'll talk about our mission, our history, some case studies in the last year, and what our current offerings are at elementary, middle, and high school. So we've been doing this type of work for 10 years now. It's really an experiential learning type model that we use, project-based learning, hands-on, student-led, inquiry-based. So we want students to do these investigations around waste, energy, sustainability, could be water, just to ask questions around the school and find ways to improve things. And you know, after 10 years, we've gathered enough research working with teachers and students to have some programs that are pretty tried, tested, and true. But yeah, just in the New Brunswick region, we have some partners in Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland, Ontario, across Canada that we do share resources with back and forth, but we haven't expanded outside of New Brunswick just yet. Here's some of our funders that allow us to do the great work we do. We have a good mix of provincial, federal, corporate, foundational funding that allows us to deliver our programs and develop and keep current. And we're really fortunate to have the funding that we do. Jimmy, if you want to talk a little bit about the history, since you've been around the longest.
Yeah, no problem. So the organization was founded in 2009 by an engineer called Brian McCain, part of the McCain family, Florenceville based, and he worked on so many projects around the world, in the UK and west of Canada, and was everything around energy and trying to be more efficient. And he really believed that providing an engaging experiential learning opportunity to students would just enhance interest in new technologies, things that would become important for climate change mitigation. And he really believed in informed decisions, so about energy and its impact on the environment. And that was the previous mission of the organization when it was founded. It had changed to focus on climate change, but it previously looked more around energy. And we had a motto of realistic environmentalism, meaning currently we have man-made technology system, things that we rely on, that we're dependent on now, like the internet, that didn't exist in the mid 1900s. And without it today, I don't know what we would do. So it's this perspective of improving that, but with a sustainable lens. So really thinking about how to improve these things, but making them more sustainable. So energy efficiency and waste diversion became early priorities of the programming at Gaia.
Perfect. Yeah, and you can see the picture of the old mobile energy center we used to travel around the province with. I know Jimmy had a close relationship with that thing, even when it was in its darker days at the end there. And then you can kind of see the transition there with me and Jimmy standing beside our hybrid electric vehicle that we take around to schools and different events. That was an MDTA event a few years back. So we consider ourselves as leaders in local sustainable education. We've been recognized by industry and the education sector, different partners, and we try to hold ourselves high as a gold standard partner when we work with Department of Education, when we work with MB Power or the New Brunswick Environmental Network, teachers. It's all extremely important to us, and especially at the classroom level. This is a picture with me, Adam from Nature MB, and some teachers in Salem Elementary School in Sackville, one of the schools I was really privileged to work with a lot in the last 3 years. And so those are really our most valued relationships, because essentially teachers are our customers, to try to encourage them to teach about climate change and work with their students on these engaging projects. So all of this is framed around different policies, and we are lucky to have some strong policy and some great research here in Canada that sort of elevates our work and spotlights it as important, and prioritize it for us when we're talking to funders, when we're talking to partners. So there's some great national research. If you want to check out this article by the Sustainability Education Policy Network, Responding to Climate Change Education, a primer for K-12 education. And then, of course, we have a New Brunswick Climate Change Action Plan, which actually targets education as a couple of the key objectives. And we've been working towards Objective 9 in that policy for a long time to bring climate change education to the curriculum and to all school levels at K-12 across New Brunswick. And we try to keep relevant with the education research as well. So we want to know what the research is saying about teachers and how they feel about climate change, students, what their attitudes are on climate change, what kind of resources are needed. The general consensus I find is that any kind of resources are welcome, whether it's experts joining the classroom to talk about their careers, or videos or lesson plans. I think the Gaia Project has a responsibility to try to develop and prepare some of those resources for teachers to make it easy and sort of save some of the time that it takes to, as a teacher, to do lesson planning and unit planning and everything like that. We're trying to just be an extra arm and a support system for teachers in preparing these types of resources. So last year we had a great year. Even through the pandemic, we were able to reach 26,000 students, which is the most students we've ever reached in a year. Part of that was because of sort of what Jimmy said with our digital and our internet and our online reach that we've developed over the pandemic. But 5,000 of those students were engaged in those hands-on projects that, it's not just a presentation or a one-off. That's an engaged project where you're actually doing a waste audit or an energy audit or some sort of a sustainability investigation that takes a little more time. And we were in all 7 school districts in New Brunswick, including Indigenous community schools. And we're about halfway to all schools in New Brunswick, which is our strategic plan over the next 5 years, to be, for Gaia to be present in some form or fashion, whether it's a resource, a poster, or a program at every school in New Brunswick. That is a good look at sort of the numbers and the quantitative reach that we have, but we do have a qualitative story that doesn't often get told. There's a great video on the front page of our website at thegaiaproject.ca that you can look at, and it shows some of the work that we do. But I pulled 3 case studies from this year that I wanted to talk about a little more in detail. One at Florenceville Elementary School, which I've worked at a lot in the last 3 years with Tina Bishop. Hampton High School in the St. John region with Laura's Dream Green team, and École Caver in Fredericton, where it was kind of a newer school that we worked with on some waste management programming. In Florenceville, I began working with Tina Bishop in late 2018. She called me to the school, and Florenceville is an interesting case study for us because it's one of the first schools that we sort of piloted and began working with as an organization. Brian McCain was from the Florenceville area, so he worked a lot with Carleton North and Florenceville Middle School and Florenceville Elementary. So there was a lot of artifacts around the school grounds and the school community that had old logos of the Gaia Project, whether it was on the light switches or in the school garden. But what happens with groups like ours is, we get teacher turnover and we get student turnover, and oftentimes we're left with sort of ghosts of the past of what projects that we've done at school, and no one's really upkeeping it. And so Tina started to work at Florenceville Elementary, and she realized that there was a lot of things that weren't kept properly, and she wanted to sort of get things back on track. She also noticed that in the garbage, they weren't sorting the compost the same way they used to, and some of those other things. So I came into the school and met with Tina and talked about our waste audit program. Unfortunately, at that time, we didn't have funding for the waste audit program, so I had to do a professional learning session with their teachers instead. So we pulled in a few teachers and I showed them how to set up a waste audit. I left them all the equipment and they felt confident to run the program. They conducted the waste audit with some of the students, which was great. And I came back to kind of check in on the results and pick up the equipment. And Tina led me to the custodial closet, and she opened the door and there was milk cartons just piled up in this closet. Because in this particular region of New Brunswick, they were not recycling milk cartons, so there was nothing they could really do. And this school, they had it really good at this school. They had a big blue sorting bin on the school grounds, so they could sort through all the plastic and the paper. They didn't have to drive it somewhere. They had a good system in place, but not for milk cartons. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I was supposed to bag up all the milk cartons and put them in my car and drive them back to Fredericton to a sorting commission. But instead, I started calling some of my partners. And at the time, we just struck an agreement with the Carton Council of Canada. So that was really good timing, because my contact there was really interested that only one waste commission wasn't recycling milk cartons and all the rest were in New Brunswick. So again, this group of grade 2 students started asking a question. They ran into a challenge and they leveraged their partnerships with the Gaia Project and others. And before you know it, a couple more calls were made. And on January 1st, 2021, they started to recycle milk cartons in the Western Valley Waste Commission region, all the schools in that area. So that was a group of grade 2 students making a systemic change from being involved with the Gaia Project, which this is the reason that we do this kind of work, is for those kinds of examples and exciting experiences. Hampton High School is a great one. We love to talk about Hampton High School and Laura Myers, a definite top-notch eco-champion teacher in the province. And Laura's class works with the Gaia Project year after year, and we kind of challenges us to revamp our programs and be more exciting and be more challenging to the schools that do it over and over again. And we don't want them to kind of feel like they're treading in the same water and doing the same kind of sustainability programs over and over again. This year they targeted waste at the school, and they felt like they needed to sort of revamp that and reframe their sorting system. And so we offered them a $500 grant to make some changes, and plus the educational components of the sustainability and action program. And they also were awarded a great acknowledgement from MB Power with the Education Award this year in the spring. So just another class that pushes us year after year to be better, and really exciting stuff. This one, I wanted the students to kind of speak for themselves. So maybe Jimmy, you can give me the thumbs up as long as you can hear this video of the students talking about their experience with the Gaia Project.
How are you going to use the money for the school? We made beeswax paper with beeswax. We bought a composter, and we made reusable bags with a sewing machine.
What are the benefits for the school?
To change the habits of students and better for the environment and planet. It's cleaner and safer for the animals.
And with your excellent project where we take the garbage and sort it, we figured out that there's way too much plastic, so we asked a partnership with the Fredericton Waste Commission to get plastic buckets to give to the school.
Thank you.
Because every little thing counts.
So that's cute. Really exciting working with Cole Caver in Fredericton, and a newer school for us, but it's exciting to see them take it so far after doing the trash tracker program at the elementary level. And we're looking forward to working with them again in the next year. Just going to take a minute, Jimmy, if there's any questions or anything you want to interrupt me with, I'll give you kind of a chance to do that.
Yeah, you can type in your questions, like I said, in the chat, or if you have capacity, we're not sure if you can raise your hand on this presentation right now on Zoom. So if you can't, just type it in the chat box, and I'll keep track of that. And I can cut you maybe if there is a question, Jeff. And
perfect.
Okay.
So here's some of our goals for the next school year. We want to conduct 180 of these action projects across New Brunswick. We want to reach 200 schools with our resources and programs. We're pretty close to our mark at $800,000 raised for the fiscal year. And that's going to lead to hopefully 30,000 students reached, which will be another sort of record year for the organization. And that's going to include 125 teachers engaged in professional learning. So that's something that we weren't able to do in the last year with our sort of distance problems and doing a lot of virtual programming. But this year we're bringing back PL, and we're really excited to do that. So if that's something your class and your school wants to engage in, please reach out. Here's what it looks like if you're an elementary school teacher. We have different types of learning packages you can download. Everything's free, I should say. We don't have a charge for any of our programs or any of our resources. So you can sign up for a learning package. We need a little bit of information from you, like how many students are going to be engaged in the package, what your school district is, all that basic information, especially if we have to mail something to your school, like a kit. We want to know your address and everything like that. I'm going to talk quite a bit later about Eco Schools Canada, but so I'll kind of leave that on the shelf. But we also have our climate action scratch poster, which we released last year, and we distributed about 600 posters to classrooms in New Brunswick last year. It's a really fun tool. It's a big 24 by 36 poster with 50 different actions that you can take in your classroom around climate action, and the students can actually scratch it off once they've achieved that goal. It's sort of laid out and starts with more of a knowledge base, then it goes to a skill base, and then into more of an action-based school-wide community kind of movement at the far right. So you're kind of tiered off, and you can kind of start off slow by learning about some of the topics and then actually doing, putting it into some action at the school. Our most important and our most high valued program at the elementary level is the trash tracker that you just witnessed in that previous video. So that's an engaging hands-on waste audit program where students sort through a day's waste at the school and measure how much paper, plastic, compost, refundables are being thrown in the garbage that could be diverted from the landfill. And then, the question after that is, what do you want to do to change the infrastructure of the school? And you might want to focus on paper, you might want to focus on compost. It's kind of up to the students to decide how they want to change their school community. And we really try to bring them all the tools and equipment to do this activity, and then empower them to go to the next level and implement composting or implement a new waste signs at the school or whatever it might be. We see a lot of different requests from teachers over the years. The middle school level is more focused on energy. So we have a brand new program called Energy Escape that we've just piloted at the end of the school year last year, and throughout the summer we've been testing it with teachers. This is it's an escape room setup, so it's kind of a gamified program where we've filmed a great number of videos to set up the scenario of a blackout at the school. And the students in this blackout scenario have to understand what the priorities are now. So we talk a little bit about light, we talk a little bit about heat, we talk about communication, and we talk about water. And what they need to do is sort of solve some challenges to come up with the combination codes to unlock a box with all of the items they would want in a blackout scenario. So it's kind of fun and engaging, but also, it deals in real world problem solving. So we're really excited about that program, as it's very interdisciplinary. Every station is a different subject matter. So we represent a little bit of science, a little bit of math, a little bit of history, Indigenous learnings, all in one program. I encourage you to check that out in September. We have a video series that we filmed in the last year on our electric vehicle. Again, our scratch poster, Eco Schools and Professional Learning, are things that are open to all levels. And then our spotlighted activity at the middle school level is the Energy Detectives program. That's a long-standing program where we conduct an energy audit of your school and then talk about ways that students can actually save on energy use at the school and save money on their school's power bill, which the schools always like. The high school level, we have our Electrify Your Ride program. So that's a more engaged version of, electrifying transportation. We bring our vehicle to the school and let the students talk about the differences between electric vehicles and gas-powered vehicles. That one's been around for a while too. We've added a few new components with COVID and the pandemic kind of not allowing us to travel to schools last year. We had a lot of time to develop new videos and other new activities to go along with this program. So we're really excited to launch that. We've also been working on a Green Experts program, which is an opportunity to connect your students to green careers and different mentors. I think we've built a list of about 60 potential mentors for the New Brunswick region in French and English to work with teachers and work with students, talk about how they got where they are, and give them guidance if they're doing a sustainability and action type project. We're really excited to have that because we sort of act as the jack of all trades when we're working with the classroom and with teachers, but we like to have, you know, real energy professionals and waste professionals and water and whatever it is. So that's something that's only going to make us stronger. Then the highlighted program, project-based program here is sustainability in action. And that's really turning it up the inquiry level to the full level of the spectrum and giving students more autonomy on what they want to study in teams, working around the school, collecting data, and presenting it to see if they can make some significant changes. Like I mentioned with Hampton High School and Fredericton High School, and I can ring off a number of schools that have worked with the Gaia Project since 2009 that have completely transformed their school. If you would have drove by them before working with the Gaia Project to now, you can see things like solar panels on their schools, energy efficient light bulbs and all that. They've sort of gone through everything, and really exciting stuff. So we're going to try to do an engaging type component here. It's my first time setting up a Menti quiz. I hope that you've used one before, but it's pretty easy. You're just going to go to a website and enter a code and then follow through a couple questions. We'll check out the responses together and talk about the implications of that. So menti.com is where you're going to go. You're going to open up a new tab, type in menti.com, and then put in the code that it asks for, 1060 4835, 1060 4835. We're going to go through 5 questions. So you can submit your answers and we'll look at all the answers together and then talk a little bit about the results. So I'm going to pull my Menti screen over now. Okay. And maybe Jimmy, if you can let me know when you're good to go. All right. So the first question you might see is, what increased phenomena will New Brunswick experience the most with climate change? So there's going to be a lot of changes with climate change. A lot of things we're going to see in the New Brunswick area that we won't see in other areas of the world, but what one specifically should we be concerned about? Is it fires, storms, droughts? Are we going to see more of a wetter climate, colder and more disease? Are we going to see warmer, wetter, and stormier conditions? All right, so if I press a button here, I think I'll see the results. There we go. All right, so we have a bit of a split here between fires, storms, droughts, and warmer, wetter, and stormier. And I'll just wait another minute or two in case there's a few more responses. And if you're having any problems getting on to Menti, you can just let Jimmy know in the chat and he can try to help you out. So this information, yeah. Is there a problem or anything? Are we good?
That's fine.
Okay. So the this information comes to us from the New Brunswick Climate Change Secretariat, who we're lucky to meet with annually to talk a little bit about the data they have on climate change. Obviously, we're going in to work with students and talk to them with our projects and our presentations. We want to have good data. And the focus right now and the research suggests that New Brunswick will be getting warmer, wetter, and stormier with climate change. And here's a chart of some of the emissions in New Brunswick and how we know how that plays into climate change. Carbon and greenhouse gas emissions have been contributing to climate change. And so we've set targets for New Brunswick to try to minimize and put a little bit of mitigation into climate change, but there's still a lot of work to be done. All right, next question. This question is about electricity generation in New Brunswick. So which is a true statement about New Brunswick electricity generation? Number one, electricity is generated on an on-demand basis and can't be stored in large quantities. Number two, electricity is stored in high-tech battery systems located in power plants. And the third, New Brunswick generates its electricity strictly from renewable sources. Got a couple of responses here leading towards number one. There's one for number two. Okay, starting to pile in. So it looks like the consensus is that electricity is generated on an on-demand basis. And that is correct. So when the demand goes up, when people are up in the morning taking showers and cooking and using a lot of electricity, turning on their heaters, then New Brunswick has to turn some of the the fossil fuels on and generate through the ways that we don't want to when it comes to climate change. So unfortunately, the technology isn't there yet to have the real high-tech battery systems and store this electricity for use later, but that's a change in technology we hope to see over time. There's a lovely look at some of the students from St. Stephen Middle School doing an energy audit. All right, next question.
Be hit H right now. So, okay, great.
Gotcha. Which sources of energy generation do we use in New Brunswick? So how do we generate energy and electricity in New Brunswick? Is it hydroelectric, tidal, wind, and solar sources? Is it nuclear, hydroelectric, wind, biomass, coal, and oil? The big mix. Is it wind, coal, nuclear, and hydroelectric? What are our sources of energy generation in New Brunswick currently? All right, I'm going to show the responses so far. See a good mix of answers here. Number 2 and 3 are very similar, but the response that we're looking for here is nuclear, hydroelectric, wind, biomass, coal, and oil. So we do have some biomass energy generation and some oil that's used. I'll show you a little chart here from, you might have to click on the chart actually to make it bigger. I'm not sure if it's going to be large right from your screen, but you can see the different sources of energy generation in New Brunswick and also compare them to Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. Obviously, we have a big hydroelectric dam at Mactaquac. We have nuclear at Point Lepreau. There's petroleum use in New Brunswick as well, and we have coal up at Beldoon. So it's a pretty good mix, but there's also biomass. Some of the landfills use biomass, and there's a Miramichi mill as well. So this is from 2018, so it might be a little bit dated on some things, but that's the general energy use in New Brunswick. New question. How much average energy-related savings will driving a fully electric vehicle versus a gas-powered car accumulate annually? So we're looking at the difference between a fully electric and a gas-powered vehicle. How much can you save throughout the year purely on energy, not at the cost of the vehicle or anything like that, but just on, paying for gas versus paying for electricity, essentially. And the range here is 0 to 4,000. So you can kind of slide your answer. If you go right to the middle, that'll be $2,000 savings. I know it says 200 point something, but that's just the only way I could make the slider work. So that answer right on the screen right now is $1,500. There you go. So you can kind of slide your answers in, and the average will kind of come in to play here. But it's somewhere between $0 and $4,000.
That's the one where we should have included some sort of tense music, something.
Ooh, yeah. Our energy escape music would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming in here close to $2,000 right in the middle. And that's not too far off, according to NB Power's website. At 20,000 kilometers a year, the average savings is about $1,500, so $1,500 to drive an EV compared to gas. So saving a lot of money on gas in a year to drive an electric vehicle. Last question. This one's a little more open-ended. So this question is, how do you believe today's youth feel about climate change? And you can put as many responses as you want, type them into the blocks there. How do you think that youth feel about climate change? Maybe you've talked to your students about it, or your kids, you have an idea, or maybe you're just kind of making a guess here about the younger generations. But go ahead and put a few responses in there to share what you think they're going through when it comes to eco-anxiety and climate change and all that. There's some responses: nervous, hopeful, and engaged. Angry, determined, anxious, green, frustrated, worried. They want to learn, they want to act, they're open-minded. They are open-minded, which is why we like to work with youth. Great answers: frustrated, hopeful. A little bit of a mix, but I like that answer. They want to learn, because they really do. They are very eager to, and not only just to learn, but like you mentioned, to act. So they sometimes, we've talked to a lot of youth in high schools across New Brunswick that talk to us about, we're done learning. They have YouTube and things now that they can get all the information they want on their phones, but they really want to know how to do something and what can they do and what kind of resources are out there. So that's sort of our responsibility, we feel, to support those students. And something we were able to do, I think you're going to have to click a button that says next question to see what I have on my screen now. So if you click next question, you're going to see this empathy map that we constructed as an organization, working with our staff team, and a professional learning course that we did with Dr. Ellen Field from a university in Ontario.
If you want to zoom, just click on the image on your side and it should make it a bit bigger.
Right, thanks, Jimmy. So yeah, click on the image if you want to see what we wrote. We wrote about Generation Z. We wrote about how they think differently, how they do, how they act, what things they say, and try to put ourselves in their shoes based on what we know from working with students and from TikToks and all the stuff that they're more engaged in. But it was important for us to think about things from their lens. And that led to that youth leadership team I'm going to talk about later. So I'll talk a little bit more in a bit about that program. But we're going to jump ahead and look at, thank you, Menti. We're going to look at some of these programs. So Eco Schools is one I really want to highlight, and then I'll talk a little bit about the student leadership team plans that we have in the next couple of years. So Eco Schools is a great program. It's international. There's Eco Schools USA, Eco Schools China, UK. Eco Schools Canada was spawned out of Ontario. We began talking to them because they put a great report on climate change education out in 2018. And I started to ask them about if they're interested in spreading to other provinces, and it turned out they were. So we started a pilot program in 2019 with about 25 schools in New Brunswick, and the Anglophone sectors only at that time. And it went really well. And we really feel like this is a good way to celebrate and acknowledge and bring awareness to the schools that are doing great environmental actions and programming and working with Gaia and MBEN and Ducks Unlimited and all the other organizations like ours. We want to be able to spread this like wildfire. Sometimes I think they find educators and students get stuck in a bubble as the green team or the eco team, and it doesn't really get further out of that in the school community or the schools that are close by. But something like Eco Schools could be sort of a social pressure that we can use provincially to try to encourage other schools to challenge themselves to be certified. So what does it look like? Well, essentially you're setting yourself up with an action plan for the school year on some of the activities you're going to engage in, and they're going to give you points for your actions, which could be based on how many students are engaged, the ways that you're communicating that message. If it's student-led projects, you're going to get more points. All those things come into play. We really like this model too, because it sort of challenges our own programs to look at how we can improve and new things that we could try to do. There's over 50 actions to choose from. And when you collect, say, 8 to 10 of these actions for one school year, you'll achieve points throughout the year as you achieve those actions. And you can get up to a bronze certification, to silver, to gold, and platinum's really the high level, the high watermark that you're looking for. And we were really excited last year. It was only our second year running Eco Schools, and we had over 10 platinum schools here in New Brunswick. So there's a lot of great work being done. It's just a matter of sort of cataloging it and sharing it around the province to sort of spread this message and keep the ball rolling around environmental education stewardship in schools in New Brunswick. This is what the app looks like. So it is a lot of online use. And I think that over the time that I've been involved with Eco Schools, it's gotten a lot easier to access. They've really kind of streamlined things on how to set it up an account. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in a minute. And what you do is you just find the actions that you're looking for, and there's over 50 to choose from, and you can develop a plan each year that you want to achieve. And so you could have a theme each year. Maybe you could focus on waste one year, energy another year, and sort of mix it up. But they're all connected to SDGs, and in some cases curriculum, and organizations like ours are mentioned in some of these actions too. This particular program is free in New Brunswick. So if you're a New Brunswick educator, we've paid the fee for the year. So you can sign up and do everything and use all their resources for free, which includes webinars and lesson plans and things of that nature. And just, that tracking mechanism is there to sort of challenge your students to keep acting and keep, these programs running. All right, so what I'm going to do is just show you a quick mock sign up for Eco Schools. So here's what the app looks like when you come in. And if you're brand new to Eco Schools, you're going to register. So you put in your email, throw in a password, and register. And they're going to ask for some more information here. So I'll fill this out really quick. And then they'll ask you if you're a staff or a student, because a student could come on and sort of manage this as well. It doesn't have to be a teacher or administrator, but I'll say staff member and go to the next. Then they're going to ask you for an avatar, so you can upload a picture of yourself or just use one of these silly ones. And now they're going to ask for your school address. So the schools that we already work with will sort of be logged in here automatically, but I'll put Park Street School. That was my elementary school here in Fredericton.
As you're doing that, I'm just going to answer quickly a question, Jeff.
Yes, absolutely.
About is the program in French? Yes, it is. It is also available in French. You can change the interface to French, and everything on the form should switch to French, and you'll be able to enter your school in it. So it does work with both the Anglophone and Francophone schools, and we already have both sides a part of our list of schools already. Even platinum schools, we have some Francophone and Anglophone mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you sign up your school, you'll put in your address, and then only the schools that are already involved are going to come up in that area. So you're going to have to enter a new school.
There's another good question here, Jeff.
Sure.
As you do that, they're asking if it needs to be the whole school or just a class. So I believe if a class is involved in any projects, and they can register their school for a certification. So it doesn't need to be the whole school population engaged. That's the goal, but it could start with a simple group of students in a committee.
Yeah, typically they'll suggest when you get started to pull together an eco team. So that could be an extracurricular thing. It could be an environmental science class. It could be anything. It doesn't have to. I mean, I would encourage, if you're going to do Eco Schools, to talk with your administrators, get them on board, and give them a one-pager on the program, and get them aware of what's going on. That's part of getting points. Is actually, I'll get to the actions a little bit later, but they're going to ask you questions about how many students were involved, Did you share this on the school announcements? Like there's ways to get points from kind of, not making it just a niche little group of students. They really want this to be a school community change. So you can choose your position. Even if you're a custodian, you could be on the green team, because they're obviously involved a lot on the side of energy and waste and things like that. Maybe a librarian, I'll say, and then you'll agree to the terms, and then that'll sign you up. And then once you do get registered, they'll set you up with an account that looks like this. So this is my dashboard for my mock account here. So I've already set up a bit of a plan, and I have a few points accumulated from my plan just from doing a test. You can see that the level of points here to get bronze, silver, and gold and platinum is all laid out. So you're going to start by just trying to achieve a bronze plan. Once you build your plan, it'll show you what you're eligible for here. So with what I've put on the table so far in my action plan of 9 actions, I could get a gold if I do everything right. And this is where it's going to show me my points and all that good stuff. So there's also some deadlines down here. There might be a webinar or something that you need to get done like May. Some date in May is when you really have to have everything submitted to get certified. So those will be all right on your first dashboard. The plan is outlined here. Here's my current plan that I've already set up. There's going to be a few actions in your plan that you can't get rid of because they find that those are the fundamental foundational things to do. One of the obvious ones here is getting to know your school. So when you click on an action, here's what comes up. You'll have some curriculum links if they're necessary, if they're applicable, and some pictures that other schools have uploaded of that same action. So there's often a guide to show you if you're doing a waste audit, for example, there'll be some information there on how to do that and resources to do that. But what you really want to be filling out is the certification questions for every action. So they're going to ask you a start date. And in this case, this is just basic information to get 5 free points pretty much. So you get 5 points just from putting information about your school, how many students are in your school, are you a UNESCO school, does your principal know about eco schools, like all those basic questions just to get started. And once you fill that out, you'll have 5 points automatically. Then you have to look at some of this other stuff here. So you might see something like professional development. You might try and realize, you know what, I don't think my school's ready to do PL around, environmental education. I'm going to eliminate this task. So you just click on the X and you'll get rid of that action. You might have an action you might see an action or think of an action that's not on here that you want to add. So what you're going to do then is go to add actions from library, and you can scroll down and see all of the 50 actions. And there's everything. It's, some are about waste, some are about biodiversity, some are about energy, water. There's a lot of different like actual external programs like WWF and the Great Gulp and things of that nature. But I'm going to look for one that the Gaia Project is involved with as well, Make the Switch. So this one's all about energy savings, and I know that we do an energy audit at the Gaia Project, so I think I can add that to my program. I might just want to read a little bit about first, see some of the curriculum connections and the SDGs, see some other schools that have been involved, and if I like it, I'm going to add it to my plan. So if I go back to my plan here, now I can see that we've got rid of professional development and we've added the Make the Switch program. One that I started filling out already is the waste audit, which Gaia also offers, the trash tracker program. So I'm going to look at that and see that there's, a little guide here about how to do this and what kind of equipment is going to be needed, some things to do before and after the program. And then I'm going to go down to actually filling in some of these answers. So I'll pick my date to do a waste audit, October 14th. And then it's going to ask you, okay, is this just like a one-off kind of event? Is this a campaign or is this a project? In this case, we're doing a project with Gaia. And then the higher level is the established practice. So this is something that you might do twice a year or something you have prepared and built into your unit. So that would be where they want to get you with this kind of a program. Who's going to be engaged? So is it just one class? Is it the whole school? Is it even broader? Is the community getting involved? Are you bringing in partners and parents and things like that? How many students will be engaged in the learning? How many adults will be engaged in the program? So you can kind of just give your best honest answers here to what you think this is going to look like, or potentially fill this out after you've conducted the waste audit. They want to know what kind of student leadership was involved. So were students involved in the planning? Were students involved and sort of in an inquiry-based approach to deciding how to do this? That's obviously important to all these different actions. How did you share the message? How did you communicate about this? Was there posters, announcements? Is there an event? Like it'll challenge you if you've already been doing something for about 5 years with your school, for example, and you're looking to improve it and make it better and more impactful. I find this is a great method to go and look and judge your program that you have currently to see if you can improve it. So all these questions will kind of build up to how many points you're actually going to get out of the total. So at this point, with what I filled out, I've got 10.25 points, and maybe that's as much as I can do. You don't have to do everything perfect, but then you'll complete it once you're done. So that's sort of what it looks like. Go back to your actions and sort of just chip away at this through the school year. The Gaia Project is there. We paid the fee for Eco Schools, but we also want to be engaged with teachers that are involved and help them in filling out these actions and answering questions with them and finding them local resources and all that stuff. That's sort of our position here with Eco Schools. So our call to actions for this, check out the website and read a little bit more about it. If you think that it's something that you can pull together an eco team and be involved with in New Brunswick, then register on the app. If you're in Nova Scotia or PEI or somewhere else, talk to Eco Schools about bringing the program to your province. Talk to your district leads. Talk to people that can make this happen for you. Eco Schools is looking to expand and looking for champions to help lead locally. And talk to us if you want to do this in New Brunswick in the next school year. So I have just a few minutes. I'm going to quickly burn through this youth leadership team. The goal with this 2-year program is for us to build a course for some of the more engaged high school students. We see in New Brunswick that there's a lot more openness around experiential learning and co-op type placement learning. And, some of the work we do at the Gaia Project sort of directly links to those goals that we have at the Francophone and Anglophone Department of Education around career planning and experiential learning. So we're going to try to work with students to build a course with them, co-develop it, and find out what kind of topics they want to learn about when it comes to climate change, leading up to a project or an event or some sort of a big action engaging their community around environmentalism. And that comes from what I mentioned earlier with our Generation Z empathy map. And this is sort of just a spotlight of what we plan to do. Part of this funding is coming from our federal grant called UCAN, which is an Atlantic climate change education movement over 5 years, hoping to reach 70,000 youth with the types of actions that we do. We want to continue to fundraise. We want to recruit about 20 to 25 in the next school year, not the coming school year, but the one after, to actually engage in this course. But in the next school year, what our call to action is we're going to be, conducting some focus groups with youth that are just the real go-getters and the real passionate individuals around environmentalism and climate change action. So we want to be able to talk to them about what kind of things they could see in their course around climate leadership. So if you know students or you're thinking during the school year, you see some students that might be good for this, please let them know and contact us, and we'd love to get their opinion, because we need more youth voice in government here and in organizations like ours when we're developing resources. Check out our website and sign up for some of our resources. We'll have it ready to go in September. There's our social medias. If you want to follow some of the stories, like I told you earlier about Florenceville Elementary School, École Calvaire, and Hampton High. And thank you so much. Jimmy, thanks for managing the chat. And we can have a little discussion, some questions if there's any right now for the last couple of minutes here.
Yes, thanks. I just posted the website address there. So if you want to capture that, you can go and check out. There's a bit of a rearrangement on our teachers section right now in the back end. So it's going to go live for the new school year, but the essentials are there. So if you want to order a poster or you want to check out our resources, or even better, you want us to come in and do a project with your class, everything should be there for you to send a registration request. Any questions? We're about a minute from the 11 mark.
And if you do have more questions, I know there's a lobby the chat group room place, we'll head over there. And if you want to chat a little more about the Gaia Project or environmental education or stuff that you've done at your school that you think is really important, well, we're happy to hear about your stories as well.
This was amazing, gentlemen. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation and the stories. As you just said, Jeff, I put the link in the chat to that virtual room for people to come. We're heading there now. And as I mentioned, it's very simple. Just click on the link. And Jeff's doing it now, actually. Click on the link. Basically, it's going to ask you to register, put your name and your email in, join an event, and then basically sit at the tables that you want to sit at, talk to more people and have those conversations. So once again, Jeff and Jimmy, I appreciate you guys coming in and talking about the Gaia Project and all the amazing things that you have to offer to education. I look forward to seeing everyone over in that virtual conference hall in just a few minutes. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks.